And in San Francisco, Robert Novak. Our guest is Democratic political consultant Bob Schramm. Bob, it's good to have you back.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming. It was revealed last night that the 1984 Clinton campaign for governor is a suspect in the criminal investigation of the Madison Guaranty Savings and Loan. Earlier this week, tax returns released by the White House show that Hillary Rodham Clinton in the late 70s made $99,000 in commodities trading on an initial investment of $1,000. The White House attacked, quote, careless reporting, end quote, by Newsweek, which stated that Ms. Clinton invested no money of her own. The president's political team downgraded Whitewater's impact on her image.
I think that issue for the average housewife or the average person out there is not nearly as important, not nearly as relevant as her work at the Children's Defense Fund, as what she has done to promote health care reform, as what she does each and every day to help increase the opportunities of middle-income women in this country.
But this week's survey by CNN, USA Today, Gallup shows the First Lady's approval rating has dropped 5 points since the first of the year to 52%, and that the 42% unfavorable rating is her worst ever. Mona, is the furor over a successful investment 15 years ago by Ms. Clinton just a sign of the Whitewater feeding frenzy?
Well, perhaps in part, Al, but Hillary Clinton crafted an image of herself as a disinterested public interest lawyer, Children's Defense Fund, all of that, who was pursuing her image of the public good. When it now is revealed that she was, in fact, greedy and self-interested in her own right, it punctures her pomposity completely.
You mean if you want to make money, you're greedy?
Yeah.
Well, this is
we're not here to act free, you know. There's a.
I am. Can you do something about that?
I think, in fact, the Clintons are politically vulnerable on the hypocrisy question because of their talk about the greed of the 80s and during the Reagan years,
right,
which was manifest. So politically, I think they're vulnerable. What I don't understand is what her trading in that account has to do with any matter involving his public conduct in office, either as President of the United States or when he was Attorney General or Governor. There is no link-up. And that being the case, I don't know why it is called part of Whitewater.
Bob Novak, you know about cattle futures. Tell us what you think about this.
I've never done cattle futures. I'm not that brave. Let me try to explain it to Jack. I've been explaining things to Jack for about 30 years. The problem is that this isn't just a simple investment of somebody trying to get rich. People don't go into the commodities market by themselves. A 31-year-old woman with $1,000. It's ludicrous. I was just talking to somebody last night who knows the commodities market, and she has to have some help. And that's what the political question is. But why it affects the President of the United States, Jack, is that Hillary Clinton is a public person. She is not just somebody's wife. And what has been done by public persons in their prior life before taking office, we have found in this century to be a valid question of public scrutiny.
Bob Schramm.
Well, first, I think you can attempt to make some money while you also attempt to do some things that matter to your country or your community. And I would defend that totally. Law firms all over this town do pro bono work, and I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to make some money. Number two, the Washington Times had a story this week, not many people noticed, saying that Mrs. Clinton had a pattern of successful investment over a long period of time. There is nothing alleged that she did wrong here. And I agree with Jack that there's also nothing here that's relevant to either her conduct as First Lady or the President's conduct as President of the United States. I think there's a deeper question. I don't think it's just the press going too far. I think the Republican Party is desperate to have something to talk about. They don't want to talk about the last 15 months, and they don't want to talk about the performance of the economy, because if people say, are you better off today than you were 15 months ago or under Bush, we know the answer. So they're talking about something from 15 years ago in Arkansas.
Let's get to that in the next segment about the Republicans. But let me just throw in my 2 cents right here. I think it's clear that the Clintons that they associated with some shady characters back in the late. I don't think Red Bones, her cattle futures broker, would have been invited to the Renaissance weekend, Jack. Having said that, however, I think you're basically...
But neither would I or you.
Thank goodness. I'm sure Bob was down there.
I've been invited. I just don't go.
However, I don't think it has a thing to do with what's going on right now. There are some press issues raised here. Sure, the Clintons are going to say it's all the press, but it seems to me there were some awful sloppy stories, Jack.
Well, I mean, we have now reached the point And this happened about a week or 10 days ago and accelerated last week with the stories of Time and Newsweek in particular, but not just them, where everybody in the press is very self-conscious all of a sudden because we suddenly realize, what if there's nothing there? What are we writing about? What is this story? And the notion of fitting everything into, seeing everything through the prism of Whitewater is very, it is misleading to readers and viewers. And I'll give you a perfect example. The story this morning about the Clinton campaign's 84 campaign committee being a criminal subject of this investigation. We've known about the possibility that Madison Guarantee gave them some money. Money was used for them from the beginning of this investigation. This is a minuscule procedural development suddenly becomes a big story.
Well, let me make a couple points.
All right, go ahead, Bob.
I want to make a couple points on that, Jack. It isn't minuscule. This is what Congressman Jim Leach has been trying to have hearings on, that the Madison Guarantee was used as a cash cow for a lot of things, including the Whitewater Development Organization, and also for the Clinton campaign. The second matter, as far as the press goes, it looks like the Newsweek correspondent, who was a very able correspondent, made a mistake. He admits it. You make mistakes, Al, I make mistakes. I don't think you can really fault the press for their coverage of this. I think it's a very difficult story with the Clinton administration just parceling out, dripping out one little detail after another.
I think we all can agree the Clintons haven't done a very good job putting up information, but Mona, Bill Coveridge, former top New York Times editor, tough newspaper man, said he has never seen such an outpouring of information that doesn't go anywhere.
Well, that remains to be seen whether it doesn't go anywhere. Look, the press always overdoes it. That sort of goes without saying. They reported last week that Hillary Clinton was vacationing and bicycling without a helmet. I mean, yeah, sometimes the press overdoes it. But the fact is, there is a story here, even the New York Times criticized the loosey-goosey ethics of the Clintons.
I think the press has made some ridiculous mistakes, but I don't think there's a lot of profit for the administration in attacking the press. I think that what the administration ought to do is handle this story and try to move on to the big issues.
Yeah, I agree with you absolutely. And I'll tell you something, Newsweek may have been mad, but that Time piece last week was one of the shoddiest pieces of journalism I've ever seen. It was full of innuendo, cheap shots, quotes that were anonymous, that looked like they may have even been made up. And the outrage of that was that some bureaucrat at the RTC appointed Jay Stevens, a political hitman, fired by Bill Clinton to investigate Madison. The outrage is that he should be fired. Bob Shrum and the gang will be back to take Bill Clinton's political temperature.
If you're a GTE telephone customer...
Hello, GTE Customer Care Center.
I have a question.
This is what service looks like.
We'll take care of it right away.
Because at GTE Customer Care Centers all across the country...
1 second, I can fix it from here.
Our employees have the power to solve customer needs on the spot.
I can do that right now.
Are you sure you don't have to ask your supervisor?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sure.
Customer Care Centers from GTE help us serve our telephone customers faster. Another way. It's amazing what we can do together.
Question number 2 in the National Health Reform Quiz. In the course of a year, how many people are without health insurance for some period of time? It may surprise you that the answer is 1 in 5. That's right, 1 in 5 of us. And that's a lot of people, more than 50 million Americans. And that's a fact.
The brake pads may be replaced. The leather may be conditioned. The belts may be changed. In fact, every pre-owned Lexus LS will be nitpicked, scrutinized, and pored over in as many as 100 quality and maintenance checks before it can ever be certified and backed by a special limited warranty. You could say we do the once-over, more than once. Lexus certified pre-owned cars, only at your participating Lexus dealer.
Welcome back. President Clinton and his supporters in Congress used the Holy Week recess to try to divert public attention from Whitewater.
We had one of the most productive weeks in the Congress
this immediate past week with both the Senate and the House acting on key elements of education legislation, the budget, lobbying reform, and health care.
The President and the First Lady will spend a significant amount of time in the next month traveling, talking about health care, talking about the principles of the plan, and talking directly with the American people.
In his Easter weekend message to the nation, the President warned of dangers confronting the country.
At this time of uncertainty, there are demagogues of division who would set us against one another. Too many powerful forces today seek to make money or even more power from our common misery.
The most recent CNN poll showed that after the President's Whitewater press conference, his popularity rose to 52% from 50%. Jack, is the President now back on the upswing?
We take the national temperature every day, so how can you tell? I mean, actually, he had a bigger swing back than some other polls on that. I think you can't tell anything until you find out whether he gets a brief hiatus from so-called developments in Whitewater. Clinton needs some time when he can talk about his issues and his agenda, and he hasn't been able to do that. And the other point is that the polls are very, it seems to me that important, the polls are a very, the measure we use, the polls are so volatile and so meaningless at this point, just because of the evidence being that they swing 5 or 10 points at a time.
No.
But the politicians seem to need them, and Clinton won't be perceived to have recovered until his polls go up and stabilize.
No.
Every incumbent's natural advantage is that the country basically wants to like their president. And when Clinton goes out and makes a creditable performance in a press conference, his polls bump up. But this thing will not leave him alone. And as long as the elites, that is the press, continues to focus on Whitewater, eventually the country will be brought along as well. And Bill Clinton's popularity is eroding because people don't trust him, and this feeds into that lack of trust.
Bob?
I think as people get back to focusing on the economy and what's happened in terms of the economy and economic performance, that the president's popularity will strengthen. I think the Democrats will do pretty well this year, and I think Clinton will get reelected. And I think that may be a longer view than anybody else wants to take, but that's the view I like to take.
We'll forget by 1996. Don't worry about it.
I think something else is going on here. The Republicans have lost the issues they traditionally like to talk about. The Republicans can't talk about the economy. I mean, remember, Bob Novak, you told us that this budget bill last year was just going to destroy the economy. Instead, we have the best economic recovery we've had in a long time. Secondly, we have a crime bill, and we'd already have it enacted into law if the Republicans hadn't obstructed it procedurally in the House. They want a crime issue, not a crime bill. So they want to talk about Whitewater, and they love talking about Whitewater because they also hate Mrs. Clinton, and that goes back to the 1992 Republican Convention.
Thank you, Senator Schrum. Now for our cleanup hitter, Robert Novak.
I'm so glad that Bob Schrum has got the right White House spin, even though he's not in the White House. It does my heart good. I have to take issue with my good friend Jack Germond again, because I don't think that the polls have been unstable. The president went all the way from